At first, the Arctic looks like the quietest place on Earth, a world of white ice, black water, frozen wind, and endless sky. But this Arctic documentary begins with a strange truth. The place that looks still is actually moving, cracking, melting, hunting, reflecting sunlight, storing ancient carbon, and sending signals across the entire planet. So the real question is not just, what is the Arctic? The real question is, what is the Arctic trying to tell us? The Arctic sits at the top of the world, centered around the North Pole. It includes the Arctic Ocean, parts of Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. But unlike Antarctica, the Arctic is not a continent covered by ice. It is mostly ocean, surrounded by land. That difference changes everything. The Arctic Ocean is the smallest of Earth's oceans, but its role is far bigger than its size. For much of the year, its surface is covered by sea ice. This ice grows in the dark winter, then shrinks during the short summer. To most of us, that sounds normal, but the rhythm of that ice is one of Earth's most important climate signals. Sea ice is not like land ice. When sea ice melts, it does not directly raise sea level because it is already floating, but it does something just as important. It changes how much sunlight Earth reflects. Bright ice acts like a mirror. It sends sunlight back into space. Dark ocean does the opposite. It absorbs heat. So when ice disappears, more dark water appears. More heat is absorbed, more ice melts, and the cycle starts feeding itself. This is one reason the Arctic is warming faster than the global average. And this is where the beauty of the Arctic becomes something more serious. Because the ice is not only part of the climate system, it is also a living platform. For polar bears, sea ice is not just frozen water. It is their hunting ground. It is the place where they travel, wait, smell, and search for seals. A polar bear can swim, but it is not built to hunt forever in open water. Its power depends on ice. When the ice forms later in the fall and breaks earlier in the spring, the bear's world gets smaller in time. Not just in space. That is the hidden danger many people miss. The Arctic is not only losing ice area, it is losing old ice. Young ice forms and melts more easily. Older, thicker ice survives longer and gives the whole frozen system more strength. But that oldest ice has been shrinking sharply. The Arctic is slowly becoming a younger, thinner, more fragile version of itself. Still, life here is not weak. It is incredibly adapted. Arctic foxes change color with the seasons. Walruses use long tusks to pull their heavy bodies onto ice. Narwhals move through dark water with a long spiral tooth that has made them look almost mythical for centuries. And then, above all of it, the sky sometimes opens. The northern lights appear like green fire, moving across the darkness. For thousands of years, people looked at them with wonder. Today, science shows us something just as beautiful. Auroras happen when charged particles guided by Earth's magnetic field collide with gases high in the atmosphere. The glow is not just decoration. It is evidence that Earth is protected by an invisible shield. The Arctic sky reminds us that this frozen region is connected not only to the ocean and land, but to the Sunday itself. But the deepest Arctic story is not always above the surface. Sometimes it is underneath your feet. Across the Arctic tundra, the ground can stay frozen for years, centuries, or even longer. This frozen ground is called permafrost. Inside it are remains of ancient plants and animals, organic material that never fully decomposed because the cold locked it away. For a long time, that frozen ground helped store carbon. But as temperatures rise, some permafrost thaws. When it thaws, microbes begin breaking down that old material. In some conditions, that process can release carbon dioxide and methane. So the Arctic is not just responding to climate change. In some ways, it can also influence what happens next. And this is why scientists watch it so closely. The Arctic can feel distant from cities, farms, and coastlines. But distance is misleading. What happens here can affect weather patterns, ocean circulation, ecosystems, food webs, and sea level. Greenland makes that connection even clearer. The Greenland Ice Sheet is not sea ice, it is ice sitting on land. And when land ice melts into the ocean, it adds water to the sea. Greenland holds enough ice to matter to coastlines far beyond the Arctic. Its glaciers do not just belong to Greenland. They are tied to island nations, coastal cities, ports, beaches, and homes thousands of miles away. The Arctic is often called remote, but remote does not mean separate. And it is not empty. About 4 million people live in the Arctic region, including indigenous communities whose knowledge of ice, animals, weather, and movement has been built over generations. For them, the Arctic is not a symbol, it is home. A change in sea ice is not just a graph. It can change travel routes, hunting seasons, food security, safety, and culture. A warmer Arctic is not only a scientific event, it is a human story. That is the part many documentaries used to miss. They showed the Arctic as wilderness, as if nobody belonged there. But the Arctic has always been a place of memory, language, skill, and survival. Its people understand something the rest of the world is only beginning to fully feel. The land is not separate from life. The ice is not separate from the ocean. The ocean is not separate from the sky. And the sky is not separate from us. This is the real story of the Arctic. It is not just a frozen kingdom at the top of the map. It is a system of connections. Ice reflects sunlight. Ocean absorbs heat. Animals follow ice. People follow seasons. Permafrost stores the past. Greenland shapes future shorelines. Auroras reveal the magnetic shield around our planet. Everything touches something else. So when we ask what the Arctic is trying to tell us, the answer is not simple. It is telling us that beauty can be fragile. It is telling us that silence can be full of warning. It is telling us that the places we think are far away may be closer to our lives than we imagine. At the beginning, the Arctic looked still, but now we know it is one of the most active places on Earth. Not because it is loud, but because it is connected, and maybe that is why the Arctic matters so much. It is not the edge of the world, it is one of the places where the world reveals how it works. If this journey helped you see the planet differently, like the video and subscribe for more cinematic documentaries from Veyrscope.